Oh, how I love me some Za. She's a woman of many names. Za, marijuana, pot, the devil's lettuce, ganja, whatever you want to call her. Not only that, but there's just so many different ways to access and get high. You can smoke it directly out of a blunt. You can roll up a joint. We've got pipes, bongs. You can smoke out of an orange. The possibilities are really endless. Not only that, but Za was very illegal for a very long time. Just around the 2010s is when it started to become kind of mainstream. You know, we had some states open up: California, Las Vegas, Oregon, you know, all these type of places. With California actually being the first state in 1996 to enact medical marijuana as legal. And then we had the following states follow: Oregon, Alaska, Washington, Maine, Hawaii, etc. But the biggest shift, in my opinion, was in 2014 when Colorado became the first state to legalize marijuana recreationally, which for some of y'all that don't know, that just means you can smoke it without having to have a medical card. And that's amazing. You know, Za's legal now, and now we're in 2025 where it's almost legal in every single state, which is beautiful. But that also leads me to the question, like, why are people still locked up for this? You know, we've got people that are serving real life time for just being called with like an eighth. You know, and that's the type of shit that's on their permanent record, regardless if they're in a state where it's now recreationally legal. You know, and it also makes me think, you know, if Za was illegal for this long, what was the real reason for it being illegal? Is it something that they don't want us to have? No. I think what the problem was is that we just had a bunch of old heads with an old mindset that were trying to push it back. And then it kept becoming more and more illegal as people were buying it off the streets and the government wasn't making that money. Now, if the government feels like they're having money stolen from them, they're definitely going to make some shit like that illegal. And so with the 2010s, now they're making it legal. Now the government is now funding these type of programs and putting a lot of money into it, which is very, very scary. Because what does the government like to do? The government likes to control the people so they can keep the fucking power. And now, look, I'm one to buy the Za off the streets. I do it all the time. I live in a state where it's actually still illegal, so I have no choice. We do have it we have it with a medical card, but I don't have that. Now, that's what I was saying about the government. This isn't the 70s or the 60s anymore, where these are just real life people off the streets, or maybe, you know what I'm saying, they're getting it sent over from the cartel, or they're growing it straight out the ground in their backyard and they've got a main distributor or some shit. This is the 2020s now. You can walk in dispensaries, government funded dispensaries that have put hella money into big ass farms that mass produce this shit. And what scares me about that is, like, what are they putting in the Za? The Za is good, it really is, but what is this long-term effect looking like? And is Za cooking my brain? Based off the research that I've found so far, there's no direct research connecting marijuana to the brain cell death. So technically, it doesn't look like Za's cooking my brain, but I just don't know. It feels like I should have more understanding of some things I've done before. Because, you know, as I get older, I'm in my early 20s. You know, I'll think back to some of my childhood memories, and sometimes I can't find them in there. You know, I'm trying to figure out if maybe that was a part of the Za, you know, killing off those brain cells which held those memories. Or maybe that's just me not being able to remember, but I can't tell the difference because I've been smoking for years. And so I don't know how it would be without it. Also, with certain information, like, it just feels like sometimes it's a little harder for me to process if I've been continuously smoking for days. You know, I get some information and it might go right out the other ear. Sometimes it feels like it's harder for things to stick for me because maybe there aren't as many cells for it to stick to. But there is information that says that if you've been smoking for continuous days in a row, it can definitely impair some of your memory. It can be harder for things to stick. A lot of things I hear as well is that it can really kill off motivation. Some people will just get high and sit at the house all damn day. Me personally, that's never been the biggest problem. I'd say if I was to smoke, I definitely couldn't do anything that required a lot of mental focus. Like if I had to study, I definitely wouldn't smoke before I studied or took a test or anything like that. But anything physical, you know, if I'm about to go skating, or if I'm about to go work out, or if I'm about to just go around in the city, you know, and vibe out, I can definitely do that because I don't need to be super focused in and thinking on something. You know, I can just kind of vibe out and have a good time. And me personally, that's the only problem I see with the Za. It's just my mental cognitive skills. You know, I still need to be able to have those, but I don't think that the Za is fully messing with that. Like, in my opinion, I don't think the Za is fully cooking my brain. I don't think that I think there is a problem if you overuse it, you know, and abuse it, but I think that's the same thing with everything. In my opinion, Za is one of the better drugs you can do. Unlike something like alcohol, with Za, you can still drive, You can still have full conversations with people. You're still in your right mind. You can still do almost everything you can do sober. You just kind of, might be a little slower with it. And you're gonna have some heightened senses, like your appetite, your smell, and you might even be a little more social. As opposed to alcohol. The world loves to push the narrative that alcohol is fine. But if alcohol was to drop today, that shit would be so illegal because it's literally terrible for you. It's destroying your liver. But unlike with ZA, with alcohol, if you drink, you can't go anywhere. You're definitely not driving. Your cognitive skills are so impaired that you're literally fucked up. You might be slurring your words. You can get blackout drunk. Unless you smoke like 5 fucking woods, you're not gonna green out and forget the entire night. But you will get blackout drunk and literally have gaps in your memory. And that's what are we talking about? At the end of the night, you might end up projectile vomiting beside your friend's house, just outside, unable to move. And I know because that's been me. So in my opinion, the propaganda, ZA versus alcohol, if you are able to not do any of them at all, I think that's beautiful. Live your life completely sober and really feel all of that shit. But if you're gonna choose between ZA and alcohol, I personally think that ZA is the better choice, especially if you're in a state where it's recreationally legal. I mean, you're not gonna run into any problems. You can go in anywhere and buy it. You can smoke right outside. If it's not a non-smoking area, you can move around with it. The only bad thing about the ZA is just certain professions you literally cannot smoke ZA, so you're damn near gonna have to turn to an alcoholic. So that's the situation that I'm in. I'm going into an health science field. I'm going to be getting drug tested, and I have to stay off the ZA. Overall, I don't think the ZA is cooking your brain, unless you're letting it cook your brain. If you're smoking every single day and you're not doing shit with your life, you have a problem. Just like with drinking, I think everything you do needs to be in moderation, and it needs to have balance. If you can balance it out, I don't think there's any problems. Thank y'all for listening to me ramble. Have a great day.
Please remember what I told you.